Then, hey everybody, I'm right here with my homie Chava from university. What's up, Chava? And yeah, we're gonna be basically just talking, chatting, casual. But we also have some questions that we prepared, so we're gonna be discussing these type of like philosophical questions. Well, like questions about everything, a little bit about everything. Um, so you ready?
I'm ready, man.
All right. So the first question is there life outside of Earth? And I don't know if you wanna start and take us on in.
Well, I can tell you that according to my research, there is
Uh-huh.
maybe
Yeah.
for those who expect like alien life, like similar to us, maybe it will be disappointing because I'm quite
Uh-huh.
sure there is not, or at least not in this span of time. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it is because it is very interesting this part, like
Uh-huh.
when you're out there, uh, the space it is not measured only in distance but also in time. So
Uh-huh.
this. I mean, I'm not a cosmologist or a physicist, but I have read about those things that maybe for us in this space of time,
Uh-huh.
there's no life like us right now, but maybe there was, or maybe there will be, but we do not share
No.
the same time. But maybe what it is happening right now is that in some other planets or in moons, like for example Europa from Jupiter, I think it is, there there
Uh-huh.
there is life, like little microorganisms. So
Mm,
yes, I mean, and many theories about how life started on Earth, they say the same thing, that life
right.
started here on Earth because of a lot of material came from the space, and it brought like elements and maybe some microorganisms. So
Uh-huh.
yes, the answer is yes, there is life out there. In this moment,
Yeah.
there's life out there, but it is not similar to us. I mean, they are maybe like bacteria or something, and maybe
Right.
in another moment, in another, uh, I don't know how to explain this part, but they said like it is it is like right now, but they don't share the same time.
Yeah,
Maybe
right.
maybe right now we're looking at stars, and you know that they are already dead, and
Yeah.
maybe in the future somebody is actually looking to us, and maybe they can be seeing dinosaurs or monkeys, but I
Uh,
mean there will be life. I mean, and it will be pretty scary to find out that this life is similar to us, and I mean not only in a societal way, but maybe also in a biological way. Imagine that would be super crazy,
mm,
like to find out that aliens look exactly like us. I think that would.
right.
I think maybe that is not possible, but that will be very scary.
Yeah, exactly that we're not actually, or life out there isn't actually that different from us,
Uh huh.
because I don't know why we always think of aliens as these, like, cone head shapes and with long fingers and, basically no clothes. Or because I mean, we invented like culture and all these things that we live by. And what makes us think that just because they're like in another solar system, they're going to be different? And I mean, we would also talk about evolution, like how is it that one thing goes from like a microorganism or bacteria and slowly into like a reptile, and into a mammal, and eventually into like a human. And I mean, what's next? Like I was seeing this interesting video on the internet where I think they made AI draw up the evolution of human beings. So it starts with human beings like basically going from the bacteria that we were, and all the way to like the monkeys and the humans, and eventually we turn into like cyborgs, like with the transhumanism movement and everything. But eventually we become cables, and yeah, I guess that means that we're just going to be there with data, and like up in the clouds basically, like that's how we're going to be processed. But I think it's really interesting to, I mean, this question for me is really mind-boggling. Like I don't really know what to say, because I think there could be life out there. But yeah, like you say, I don't think it would be that different from us. I mean, we could basically be aliens, like how do we not know that we land like on a planet, like let's say an astronaut lands on a planet that has people, or that has another species similar to ours or different or whatever, and they think that we're the aliens, that the astronaut's the alien, like the foreign person. I think that may well be very possible, because I mean, what the hell are we? We're sitting out
we
here like,
we are product of causality.
yeah,
And
a lot.
now that you mentioned that about evolution, maybe there could be, like, in a very distant future, in another part of the universe, like
Uh,
a total different kind of life forms. But I was thinking, for example, we are product of causality, because I mean, asteroids killed dinosaurs, and I mean, we had these small shrews that they
mm,
became like other mammals, and they evolved into monkeys and stuff. But what about if they're if like the primordial form of life, like scorpions and arthropods, spiders and insects, they didn't
uh,
got wiped out, you know? So maybe there
mm.
could be. And I was thinking in a moment, because I'm looking at the plants that you have there at the back. Are they plastic?
Oh, yeah, they're plastic.
Because I was thinking maybe that kind of life is out there, like, like
Right, plant life.
plants, or maybe not like plants, but similar to those. I was thinking maybe, for example, about the starfishes. I
Yeah,
mean, they are alive, and they're kind of like animal plants. For example, the coral reef. The coral reef is also a life form. So
right.
I'm pretty sure out there there's life, and maybe they're like coral reefs, maybe they're like plants, maybe they're like insects, maybe they're like bacteria. Or have you ever heard about this animal, the water bear,
No,
a
is that in the
tardigrade?
ocean?
The
No.
scientific name, I think, is tardigrade. So it's like a
Uh,
microscopic animal. It looks like an insect, and they call it water
uh,
bear. And they have tested it, and it withstands radiation. It can survives on vacuum. And I
mm,
mean, maybe that's why, or that's how life started on Earth. Like maybe a foreign and strange organism got in here and survived, and it found the way of striving. I was thinking there is
right.
also this kind of crabs. There are some crabs, I don't remember the name of these crabs, but there are some white crabs that they live near from, like, underwater volcanoes. So you
Uh,
couldn't imagine how a living creature could withstand those temperatures at that depth. I
uh,
mean,
and they adapt.
yes. So who can tell us for sure that there aren't, like, organisms that can actually survive the void, or even strive in the void?
Right. Yeah,
Because
under
I
like
mean, we are
those
like, oh,
circumstances.
it's because you don't have oxygen, so how can you, like, breathe? I mean, not all organisms need oxygen. For example, plants, they do not need oxygen. They actually excrete oxygen.
Right, and they take in carbon dioxide.
Uh-huh. That would kill us.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We don't know what could actually make life life. We're
Uh-huh.
just so used to our like little, like
Blue
within the
dot.
vast, yeah, our little blue dot of like water. I also thought about like how you said that we're a product of like causality, and basically like I think water came in like in an asteroid, no, or something like that
Yes, that's
from
what
outer
they say.
space.
Hmm.
Uh-huh. It's not even part of the Earth or this rock, basically. Yeah, that's I think if there is life out there, I mean, we tend to think of it, I think preconditionally. We say, oh, life out there is gonna be, intelligent, and they're gonna have far superior arsenal weaponry than us and more sophisticated technology. I mean, we don't know. They could be just like us, like you said, or there's another idea that they could be superior, but far superior. There's an example. I think it goes like we're like ants, and those aliens would be like us. So like how ants just go about their day, they're doing their own thing, and they don't even know that we exist, like the humans. And we basically, sometimes we stomp them or sometimes we ignore them also. That's how these like aliens could be. Because I mean, you make a lot of good points. You made a lot of good points in the beginning with like time, and also interdimensional beings, but not like dimensions how we see in the movies, that like you go to like another place. Like in this place, there are dimensions, or not dimensions, but there are things that we can't see.
Hmm.
Like we're limited to our five senses, and that's it. But maybe like right here among us, there are things that are happening that we don't even know. Like the fourth, fifth dimension, things like that, that we just can't perceive and basically don't affect us. And those beings could actually be living in, going about their day like we would, and we're really like the ants to those beings. That could be like another alternative, if we really thought about them not being like us, because we could say they're just like us. They're probably out there living on some planet, but they can't communicate with us because they don't have advanced technology like we don't, like we don't, right? We can't go out there and like say hi to them or whatever. They can't do the same with us. Or they could be like far superior. And also going back to, because I thought that was really interesting, how they could be living in the future or in the past, but like they say in Spanish, no coincidimos, like we're just not going to, basically be here at the same time. Because
Uh-huh.
yeah, right now we're living, there's a theory also that I read somewhere that says that we haven't actually been around for that long. Something about like the earth being created like just 4,000 years ago, and this is all
Oh,
like,
who
yeah.
said that?
I don't
I
know.
just I just read that in the morning. Like Earth is
Really?
4,000 years old, and I was like,
Oh,
what?
dang.
But
Yeah.
I mean, but that is true. I mean, like modern human, how much? Like let's say 1,000 years, maybe, and that
Oh,
is
yeah.
like not even like
uh,
modern. I mean,
right.
and actually I was thinking about something like that like the other day. Like if you want to think about how long have humans been on Earth, they say like the first hominids, they've been here since, or they were here like 5 million years ago, and from
Yeah.
those we evolved. But if you think about life on Earth, I mean, I cannot fathom
All right.
the the idea of, for example, they said dinosaurs lived like 65 million years. I mean, I cannot even
uh,
imagine five. And now even like 65 millions or 60, yes, 65 million years. And even
right.
before them, it was even more time for other kind of creatures. So I mean, yes,
Yeah.
we haven't been here around for a long time. So maybe we didn't see these creatures in the past, and maybe in the future they won't see us, because at this rate we're not gonna last that long.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's evident, and I think we're going to talk about that in the how to live, in the question of how to live like politically and economically like correct or well. But yeah, I mean, like, how do you, I mean, for example, this makes me think about like when they say, oh yeah, like the Russians or the Romans, and you know, the Romans or the Russians, they've been around for a while. So when you talk about them, are you just putting together all their characteristics and saying this is how they were in general, or are you focusing like on their last years and saying this is how they were? Because if you talk about dinosaurs being around for 65 million years, they must have gone through changes. I mean, they couldn't have just stayed dinosaurs for 65 million years. I mean, that's kind of crazy. Imagine us humans nowadays not changing, not evolving, not having any type of revolutions for 65 million years. I mean, it's like you say, it's only been like 1,000 years, and you know, in the last like 50 years or 70 years, look at all the things that have happened, you know, since the wars and everything. I mean, there's a lot of changes. I mean, it's possible that dinosaurs could have lived that long, but still, I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about. I think for me, I I I like your idea. Actually, I hadn't thought about that, how they could be living in the future and the past, but we're just not gonna like see each other. So I think we're gonna go to the next question. Oh, I think Chava just went out. So we're gonna take a little intermission. If you need to go to the bathroom or get a drink of water, you can do that right now, or you can just speed up the video to go to the next section. All right. Well, I'll talk about the next question. The next question is actually going to be about, yeah, and this goes hand in hand with what we were gonna start discussing a little bit of. What is the best way to live economically, politically for humans? So we're gonna start discussing these ideas. Um, I think the thing I want to talk about here mainly is are the two systems that we basically the two known systems that we have, right? Which are capitalism and communism. So capitalism, I think, is a system or an economic system that I don't think was made on purpose. I think it's accidental. I think capitalism is accidental. I think it's a result of how we've been basically behaving in regards to money and trade. And I mean, well, I'll talk about this when Chava gets back, but it's really interesting to see how money has shaped us in ways that, you know, ideas can't. I mean, money is an idea, but I think you are able to basically make people collaborate thanks to money, right? So even if, you know, people don't know each other, thanks to money, you can make them work together, you can solve problems. And I think this has had an impact on capitalism, because thanks to all that, capitalism has existed. So I think capitalism is a system that is obviously business oriented. It's due to, or it's got its dues in the business sector, in the private sector, right? It has nothing to do with the public sector. And those who do capitalism well strive, right? They succeed. Those who don't basically fail. They I would say that's where maybe the communist mentality uh, makes its fermented appearance, because you have a section of the population that is thriving in business, in the private sector. You know, they're sharks. They're aggressive persuasion, manipulation methods, and you know, conducting business deals and all these things. And then you have another section which is who basically they're not doing any of that. They don't know, or it's just not in their personality to do that. And then communism appears, right? Which is the communism is a reaction of capitalism. Communism is basically saying, fuck capitalism. We don't want to, you know, have to compete to see who makes more money and who makes less money, because these people, you know, communists, they're not making any money, right? Typically, they're students who get into this ideology. And, you know, we saw this in the 60s and the 70s with, for example, like Cuba and China and all these other countries. Um, and it's a reaction to capitalism because they don't want to have to work they don't want to have to work harder than most people. They want to they think, I mean, the ideology behind communism is a good one at heart. Communism is good because it says, well, you know what, we are all created equally under God. We all deserve the same type of human dignity, right? Regardless of what we do. So even criminals get a fair trial or whatever, murderers, rapists. Um, but then that idea of equality gets taken into the capitalist structure, into the business and economic structure. And it says, you know what, money, we should all have it, you know, and we should all have it equally, you know, equally distributed. Everything is everybody's. And in theory, the idea works. In theory, the idea works because in practice, it doesn't. You know, basically, what you're forced to do, and I was watching a video on this, is you're forced to you make people, um, you know, you take away that competitive edge from them, and and you try and you force everybody to be equal, and that's just not a reality, right? You can't go against the natural laws of things. I mean, you're going to tell somebody not to want more, you know, that's not going to work, because if somebody wants to work less and somebody wants to work more, but you're saying they should, you know, earn the same thing and have the same things, well, that's not fair. That's not equality, right? Because then you have a lazy bum, and then you have like a hardworking person, a businessman or whatever, doing all these things, you know, even if it's manipulating and whatever, but they're making their money or whatever. And you're gonna take away their money and you're gonna give it to the poor guy or to the guy that's lazy, just so they're equal. I mean, equality doesn't work in financial terms, because that's not the source. If you're trying to make people equal, well, you are going to want to have like copies of the same thing, and that's just not good. So people say that there are flaws in the capitalist system, you know, like isolation. People that don't succeed basically go crazy, right? They live on the streets. There's a lot of people resented with the government, which in reality they're resented with the system. Chava's back, so I think I'm gonna summarize what I just said. But yeah, he knows it anyway. Let's see. Chava, man, you're
Stupid
back.
connection. Sorry.
Don't worry. I kept talking. I was actually starting with the second question.
I couldn't listen to you, man. It was, I don't know, something happened.
Don't worry. Oh no, I was the second question is about what is the best way to live economically and politically. And basically I was just summarizing, well, I'll just summarize it really quickly. What I was just explaining was capitalism, I think, was born accidentally thanks to trade and money and, you know,
Mhm.
competition among some people. And communist is like a reaction of the capitalist system, which basically wants to make everybody like force everybody to be equal, but it's not in our human nature to, like there are some people that are more competitive and want more. There are some people that want to work less. So, well, I was starting with capitalist and communism because those two systems are like the most famous ones. But yeah, from there, I don't know if you want to take it.
You said like it was created like accidentally. Yeah. I mean, I remember my history class from secondary school when they were talking about feudalism, and
uh,
there were this kind of people like protecting the serfs, and there was
uh,
this other class of people that were doing that trading, and in
uh-huh,
time they became like the important ones. And
uh-huh,
yeah, there is a lot of theory about those economic systems that I keep reading because I haven't understood the whole thing like completely. But yeah,
yeah,
which one will I say that is like the best? Of course, that one that gives you or entitles you to have your own things. And a lot of people would say like, but that is unfair. But I mean, it is. I mean, even those communists and people with those kind of ideas, they didn't have this saying like "la tierra es de quien la trabaja."
uh,
So, for example,
uh-huh,
I mean, and that is a communist idea because they
uh,
were like, oh no, like rich people are not entitled to have lands if they don't use it.
uh-huh,
Uh, and I'm mean, like, well, okay, so if you don't use your own ways, your own like, yeah, if you don't work your way out of poverty and to create things on your own, what would you take from others? So I
yeah,
mean, there is this, and again, I tell you, I haven't understand the whole thing right now, but there is supposed to be a great difference between communism and socialism. And they said like
uh,
all countries, even like people on the capitalism, they are using like socialism. For example, us, I don't know, like social
yeah,
security and those things that are, well, I mean, government is in charge of those, and it supposedly covers the entire society. Mm,
yeah,
the best way to live economically. I mean, like free competition, it is like the best way. And allowing people to have their own property is the best way. But I
mhm,
mean, no economic system is perfect. So they will
right,
have like gaps, or there will be parts that for many people will sound like something unfair, like
yeah,
how could you allow that there can be like billionaires, trillionaires, and there's people like dying? I mean,
right,
I mean, it sounds like a dream. Like, yes, those people should be helping others, but I mean, for example, right now here in our country, in our situation, uh this
mhm,
person or these people that are in power, they are like, don't worry, we will split all the riches of the country for all of you. I mean, so people who is actually working and busting their backs need to sustain or support people that is doing just nothing, just like giving
right,
the hand. Mm-mm. So
yeah,
I mean, yes, and that one is linked, right? It says the best way to live economically and politically. uh
uh-huh,
they say like human being is a political animal by nature. Yes, it is, but uh I mean, we I'm not an expert, right? But I like a lot of history, and I
yeah,
have I have seen or I have read many passages in many parts of the world through ages and in different kind of societies. But when you have like a tyrannic figure, it's when there is more progress.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, right now we have a tyrannic figure and there is no progress. Well, yes, I mean maybe Maduro or Castro, those were like tyrannic figures, and there was no progress in their country.
Mm,
Yes, but I mean we need to think. We have tyrants and tyrants. So I was thinking, for example,
yeah.
in our country, Diaz, Porfirio Diaz.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
he was a tyrant. I mean, he ruled what, 32 years in power,
Yeah.
and poor people were always getting poorer and rich people richer. But I mean, there
Uh,
was progress.
yeah.
It, I think it is from a pop movie, but there is this quote that they say like humans don't know how to live with freedom. They don't want to be free. They want to be like subjugated, because that's the only way they can be controlled, and they can actually strive. They can actually prosper. I
Right.
mean, we could. I had this other friend who told me like the best way to live is in anarchy, but this one doesn't mean like everybody doing whatever they want and letting chaos go around. No, it is more like
Uh,
having, or more like not having an authority figure, but everybody doing what they must do. But that doesn't happen. I mean, think about
yeah.
right
They're not
now.
responsible.
Exactly. Think about right now, and about this kind of new ways of thinking. Like they are very individualistic, and they think they are entitled to everything.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, the only way is if you set them under control. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds bad, but
Right.
if you check history, those societies who had like tyrannic figures like iron fists were, when they were societies that had like progress, technological
Yeah.
progress, political progress, economic progress. And I mean, I'm not saying it is the best way. I'm not saying that, well, well, that we should do it again. Maybe yes. But I
Right.
mean, I still, the more I read, the more I'm convinced that we need a figure like that. And the
Mm,
problem, I mean, again, is the people, either society or the ruling class. Like from time to time, they believe they are like monarchy, or they are gods, and they start doing stupid things, or society thinks that they are owed everything. So we should look for a balance, and I think we're not gonna achieve it anytime soon.
yeah, because right now it's very to the side of the people, right? What the people want, tolerance, inclusion, enforced inclusion.
I mean, people is
Um,
ignorant. They don't even know what they
yeah,
want.
right. Yeah, they got so much. They say we're in a decadence, which is basically that's why it's represented. Like for example, they would talk about the French Revolution when the French like monarchy were, they were doing decadence because they had like everything they wanted, and basically they were very anxious, so they started to behave more in populistic terms, like clothes and what's trending, and kind of like our society is now, because we have like everything we want. We're
Uh-huh.
like kind of in a safe in a so when we don't have to work for anything anymore, and when we're like relaxed and calm, we get anxious and we start creating problems where there are none problem not yeah, basically where there are no problems. And I think that's decadence. So it's a cycle. I mean, it's not like apocalyptic or anything. Like the world's not going to end because Rome fell and we're still here, and that was like the greatest nation at one point in the world.
I mean,
The
not,
French
not only
fell.
Rome, there were the Mongols, there were the Turkish, there
Yeah,
was Alexander the Great. I mean, there were the Nazis. So, I
right.
mean, Rome Rome wasn't like the greatest. I mean, it is a great figure. It was a great figure, but not the greatest.
Uh, right. Yeah, I mean, like, and all of these people, like, they fell and, like, they remade themselves. Like Europe, Europe is a result of the fall of Rome, basically. So, like, if we do fall, basically we're gonna survive somehow and restructure again. And I think that's really interesting, that idea that you said. I mean, I've always been in favor of Porfirio Diaz. I think it's kind of bad to compare it to the drug dealer. What was his name? Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo. But, like, he was kind of like him in the sense that he did what Porfirio did, but, like, in the drug trade, which is basically like control it in a way. And I mean, I think it does work because they were talking about the fall of Afghanistan and kind of like the Middle East when the US went in there and tried to establish their democratic system, which just didn't work. And this guy, this historian I was listening to, said that if he were to establish like a political system there, he would establish a monarchy because of how the people are, because for a democracy you need trust among individuals, you need certain characteristics that, for example, Afghanistan doesn't have. Like right now they're controlled by the Taliban. They're unrecognized by international countries. So yeah, I mean, like, I think you have to work, and like you say, people are fucked up. Basically, if you give them too much freedom, they don't know what they want. They need to be controlled to a certain extent, but not too much, but not allow too much freedom, right? Like a balance between that control and freedom. That's kind of hard to strike. Mm. Well, right now, like the Zoom